Puerto Rico, una tierra de belleza, de ritmo y de sabor. Last time around, I told you that this island has been home to countless Jews for more than 500 years. But Puerto Rico carries another story too. A story of resistance, of hidden identities, of people who resisted the Spanish Empire and the Inquisition. And now we're stirring those memories back into the pot, letting their aroma rise and bringing a fresh serving of arroz to the table. Joined not only by Puerto Ricans, but also with the Crypto Jewish brothers and sisters we've met along the way, and by those who have chosen to walk with us, learn with us, and reclaim with us. From the island to the diaspora, from the descendants of the Anusim to the friends and family who've joined this movement, their journeys, their stories, their truths all come together here. So make room, porque la mesa has grown. This is the next chapter in the living, unfolding story of Spanish Jewry. You're watching Arroz con Devorah.
Hi everyone, B'siyata Dishmaya. Welcome to another edition of Arroz con Devorah. And if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing so you can stay up to date with all the latest episodes and the incredible guests we have lined up. And today's guest is someone who was part of the original Arroz con Devorah lineup after the release of her book, Hands-on Jewish Holidays in 2021. She was born in Israel, grew up in Ethiopia and Venezuela, Huepa, and after serving in the IDF Foreign Liaison Division, she studied International Business Administration in the United States. She's not only an educator and a cultural historian whose work celebrates the richness and diversity of global Jewish life, she's widely recognized for her research on Sephardic and Mizrahi food traditions and for her dedicated engagement with the Anusim and Crypto Jewish community, helping preserve and uplift the stories of families reconnecting with their heritage. Welcome back to Arroz con Devorah, Ronit Treatman Ronit. How are you? It's so good to see you. I hope I got all your fun facts right.
You did. Thank you very much for having me. It's a big honor.
Let me tell you, first of all, it's only like you still owe me a lunch. Just know that. We still like Mamash, somehow I feel like it's going to be like an Eretz Israel. We only live like a few hours away from each other, but somehow it'll be like in another country. I don't know if it'll be Spain or Girona, where, you know, we have ancestral roots there. But I feel like, you know, it's so good to have you back on. I had so much fun with you the first time around, and you had just come out with this book. And since then, and this was the pandemic era, right? So we were all stuck in the house. And, you know, I have to say, I don't know how you feel about it, but I really feel looking back, that was such a special and unique time in the Anusim, you know, movement and in the storyline of everything. You know, first of all, you had this, all of a sudden we're home, nothing to do, right? And nothing but time to research, to educate.
Yes.
And the way the information was just kind of going back and forth, I think really revolutionized and changed the direction of the Anusim movement. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think it's really special when I look back at it. I'm proud. I don't know how, Mamish, I got the zechut to be part of whatever, you know, and to meet people like yourself and Ashley and all these other people. And since then, like the doors that have opened, but it was such a special time. It was such a unique time. There wasn't really a lot of this conversation happening back then, and definitely not to this magnitude. And, you know, even for myself, when I came out with the docuseries, The Last Anusa, which is now a book, this book still, people are still reading it and still contacting me like this. So it's like, it's mamash, it was such a special time. What do you think about that time? And what do you think about, you know, everything that's happening? But for the people who don't remember you or don't know you, I want to talk first a little bit about your background, how you got into this, because it's very interesting. So Ronit, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your journey and how you got involved with the Anusim community.
Right. So about, I would say, right before COVID, I mean, before that, when DNA testing was new, it was sort of newly available, newly accessible, and it was expensive.
Yes.
I treated myself to a birthday present. It was a company called Gene Base, based in Canada.
Okay.
And that was what they would give you was a very comprehensive result, much more like than 23andMe. And much more in depth. And so I had no idea that this had anything to do with me. I was trying to keep a promise I made to my grandmother because, as far as I knew, on my father's side of the family were from Central Asia, like today it's Uzbekistan, but
Right,
Bukhara,
right.
which is a city on the Silk Road.
My Rob is from the same place. He's from the Asian side as
Right,
well.
Bukhara. And then my mother's side were Polish Jews. I mean,
Right,
Holocaust survivors. And
right,
so as a result, we were very afraid to ask very much about the family because you were really walking on eggshells. Anytime you asked, you could ask the wrong thing, say the wrong thing, and it would not be good. So there was really a culture of silence. We
right.
people don't understand that in our home, we were not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to ask. It just was not talked about.
This reminds
But
me of my family as well. This is the way it was. It was a culture of silence,
exactly.
and it was, and I think it was a different time.
Because my experience was, you don't understand, there was a tray of Valium. These were very
Yeah,
traumatized
yes,
people,
yes.
and they were basically living on it, and it was horrible. So, I didn't want to hurt them anymore. It
Right.
was, but but I was very, very close to my mother's mother, very close to her, so close to her that when my daughter was born, I gave her the name. I mean, it was that closeness.
Yeah.
But when she was dying, we'd spent the summer in Israel taking care of her, all of us, and so the one of our last conversations, it's interesting. We talked a little bit about the Holocaust, and she told me that if she didn't have her position was if she didn't have proof someone was dead, then her position is then I'm going to assume they're alive unless I can prove otherwise. And then she made me promise that I would never stop looking. And I have no names.
Yeah.
All I have is, our last name and I kind of know the cities they were from, and that's
You know,
it.
this was my father. This is exactly my father.
There are many, many similarities. Absolutely. So, at first it was like looking through phone books. Then Facebook was invented. I like
Remember
plugged it
the
into
phone books?
Facebook.
Mamash, remember the phone books?
And then this DNA thing came out, and
Right.
and at the time it wasn't about family reunification. I sort of told my brother, well, let's at least get the map. Let's make sure they're telling us what it
Right.
really was. Okay, because they were trying to hide so much. Who knows?
I know.
So we got two tests, one for him, one for me. We needed a girl and a boy to get the matrilineal map and the patrilineal map. And the way GeneBase did it was fascinating. First of all, you do get a map that they draw for you, and you also get these different population groups, and they compare your genetic profile to them. Let's say, for example, Inuit, right? Things I don't have at all, Inuit or Mongol or something. I
Right,
mean,
right, right.
so so then you can really break it down like all the things that you are. So the map was amazing. The map showed, it started like sort of Africa and Near East, and then it goes incredibly to Iberia, okay? Which I didn't know that or expect it. And
Surprise.
then, and I'm trying to estimate the time. I'm sure it was around 1492. Shocking surprise, the family splits in half. The side I descend from, it shows it going to Italy, the Netherlands, and then Poland. The other side is there for a while, and then it goes straight to, it even gave me the name, Recife, Brazil.
Yeah.
So I have hot Brazilian cousins somewhere, right? I
If you're
hope, right?
watching, get in contact.
I would love to reconnect, if I can. I mean, I know people who have traced family, people from Portugal who found family in Israel. It is possible.
Well,
And
I'll
then,
tell you what, like I can't since like the last Anusa, I feel like the lottery when all of a sudden you got cousins coming out of everywhere. This is mamash what's happened to me. I've had
wow,
so many cousins. Like
amazing.
I think Ronit, just give it another year. We'll find out we're cousins.
Yeah. The problem is I don't have any names to work with because it was a
I was the
matrilineal.
same way. You never know how these things
That's
pop
true. You
up.
don't
You
know.
know?
You really don't. So, but then the other amazing thing, then this was the map, and then there was the population comparisons, right, to our genetic profile. And I guess the family had been in the same place for so long, right, and only married people from there, right, very insular, that I get the name of a city, and I've never heard of it before. It's called Girona. It's 1 hour north of Barcelona. I had never even heard of it. So I go on a map, I go on the computer to see what Girona is, right? And I just, I sort of told my husband, "Oh, let's go see what it is. Let's go visit." In 500 years have passed. I mean, my Sephardic friends growing up in Venezuela, they knew like what city they were from in Spain, and there was sort of an unofficial, like a cherem, a ban on visiting Spain for
Yes,
500 years. It
yes,
wasn't
yes.
official, but they honored it. So,
Right.
in solidarity with them, I remember saying, "Well, I'm never going there. I
Yeah.
mean,
And for a
what they
long
did to
time, I
my
didn't
friends, I
want
don't
to
ever
either.
need to go there." But then, with this new information, the 500 years had passed, okay? And I said, well, you know what? I really don't ever want to go to Spain, but I'm very curious. I'd like to see this place. So my husband and I traveled there. We went to Barcelona, and from there we rented a car. We drove to see Girona, which is, I have to say, is a beautiful place.
Yeah, it
Kind
is.
of reminded me of Jerusalem. With the nice white stones everywhere, the old part of it, right? And what was happening there was very, very interesting because this was true in both Venezuela, where I grew up, and Spain. Talking about the Inquisition was absolutely taboo. We weren't taught about it in history. As far as they were concerned, Isabella and Ferdinand were saintly kings, and it was just never mentioned. So we get there, and by then they had a little like Jewish tourism. They were telling me what happened. There was this artist who went to the older, like the medieval section, which had been basically kind of abandoned. And what was the reason? Because when the Jews were expelled, all the Christians who stayed behind were afraid to live in their houses, so they wouldn't be accused of being Jews too.
Right.
So ultimately, those homes, people kept building around and above them, and they were ultimately entombed below new construction. And he like had this artist sort of intuition, is the only way I can explain it. He bought this house to fix it up, right? Because it was cheap. And he said, there were Jews here once. I know it. There were Jews. And he digs down, and by God, he comes to the synagogue of all things. The
Wow.
He gets to the synagogue. Now it's a big kind of Jewish center. They have like a huge Star of David in the courtyard they made.
Yes, yes.
And there were many very interesting things there. They would repurpose things. If they tore down a house, they'd repurpose everything. So you can still see what was the door with the hole for the mezuzah. There was this one well, it's called the Well of the Seven Mezuzahs. You see all the holes there. And there's like a Jewish center, and it has a gift shop. So of course we went in, and we bought a book with like Jewish last names from the area. That somebody had done some research. Somebody from there. They have the University of Girona. They have some courses of study about it. But the most fascinating thing was, and I had to learn how to decode the way people speak because I'm fluent in Spanish, which already made people much more comfortable with me. And then, but it was weird for them because they go, "Oh, where are you visiting from?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm from Israel." They're like, "You, but how do you speak Spanish like this?" And we start talking. But then, I had to learn the coded way they were telling me things. So, like the man a lovely man, a historian who was working at the gift shop, I asked him about his life, and then he said, well, I have this last name. It's Chicoira. That means chicory. Some people say it could be a Jewish last name, but I don't really know. It's always like that. I don't know. Maybe, but they're very
Yes,
coy.
yes,
They
yes.
will never come out and say it
And this
openly.
this is anyone who has this background, it's without exception, it's this almost like this, you need a decoder ring to figure out what they're
Yes.
saying. But when they're saying it, you let them talk. It's
Yeah.
almost like, and then you pull it apart later because
Right. No, well,
the
I
momento
still
does
had to
stop.
learn the language. I didn't
Yes.
know that was happening yet. So then, we returned to the United States, and I actually wrote an article about all this because the DNA used to do this kind of ancestral visit was a new thing. I thought, this is really cool. I'm going to share this. And my point was, I published it in the Times of Israel, and I said, well, I thought this was from my Ashkenazi side of the family. I don't know how Spain, they were supposed to be Ashkenazim from Poland. I don't understand this. And by the way, genetically, it didn't say Ashkenaz. It didn't say Sephardic, and we're still Ashkenazi because
Yeah, yeah.
technically we're Catalan Jews, so they're
Right,
not Sephardic.
right,
It's not the same.
right. And Spain didn't look the same back then,
That's right. Exactly. So then a very strange thing happened. So then I published it, and then people from like Barcelona were reaching out to me in Facebook to be my Facebook friend. And I thought, what do these people want with me? But I was curious, so I accepted it. And then they started sending me pictures. They go, look, we light candles in this clay, jar and with a lid, and we had it in the cabinet. We've always done it. And they just wanted to tell me. So the first time it happened, because I'd been told there's nothing Jewish left in Spain or Portugal. It's
Yeah, yeah,
done.
you hear that all the time, but if you know what you're
That's
looking
right.
for,
So
it's
I didn't think there
everywhere.
was anything left. I
Right.
really didn't. And then I just started literally shaking in front of the computer. I said, "Oh my God, they're persistent until all this time." I couldn't believe it. So I was very touched, very, very moved because I knew enough to know the risk. I mean, I knew a little bit about the Inquisition. I had read on my own. And I thought, I don't know if I would have been as brave as these people. I really don't.
I know.
Um, so I sort of started freelancing on Facebook, like just reaching out to groups like this that were starting to be formed and sharing and sort of connecting with them. And then on Facebook, I met Ashley Perry, who
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
He's a
And
Sephardic too. He's from
he was on the
London.
original lineup too in the pandemic for Arroz con
He's
Devorah.
from I mean, he's an English Jew. The name though is Perez, right? And I think they were from Cordoba. So he was he worked in the Knesset in the Israeli parliament, and he headed a caucus, which was they sort of did this basically a Knesset caucus to reconnect with the descendants of Jews from Iberia, which hasn't been done before there. And so he formed this organization, nonprofit called Reconectar, and I immediately started volunteering because Ashley doesn't speak Spanish or Portuguese or Catalan, and I said, "Look, you can't just use the Google Translate. Let me fix it for you." So, I started just volunteer every day, correcting. Then he invited me to join him as a volunteer, which I've been doing for over 10 years now. And it's
I
been a
think that's actually how
wonderful,
I found you, like how we met and connected.
yes. And so initially I was just sort of also educating myself, researching, seeing whatever articles other people had published about it, sharing with them in Spanish and Portuguese, whatever I could find. And by the way, I don't speak Portuguese, but that's no reason not to manage a page in Portuguese. I can read it and I can hear
I think you can do anything, Roni.
it. And and so then with my book, it was interesting because I translated to Spanish by myself. I made my brother-in-law check it for me because he's in my own family. He's
But
from
let me
Mexico.
tell you something. Latinos, we're so great. We will honor it. Like it could have a lot, and we will still love you and support you.
So he's from Mexico, okay, and
Right,
his last
right,
names are Ponce Palma.
right.
Okay, there you go. So, and
And
he
Ponce is
returned
like
to
a city in
Judaism.
Puerto Rico too. So
Yeah, he married my sister. He returned to Judaism, and he was the best. I said, look, I mean, my Spanish is good, but it's not like yours. I just don't want to be embarrassed. I need you to check, make sure I'm spelled and have the accents, and it's just not at the level that I can write in English. I have to make sure I don't embarrass myself. So it was
right,
really
right.
sweet. He checked it for me. By checking it, he learned a lot
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
really aimed at sort of people trying to do this at home because so many of the members of Reconectar, they live in a place where there's no Jewish infrastructure or they're not welcome. So I kind of do a DIY, like Israeli style DIY. You can do this at home.
I was just gonna say, I've worked with Israelis a few times. And one of the things I've learned from them is that even if they don't know, you would never know they don't know. Because the motto is no problem. Can you do that? No problem. Even if they have no idea how to do it.
Exactly. I mean, I teach how to do crafts. I have no artistic talent at all.
I
And
told
it
you,
is
you can
very
do
evident
anything,
in the
Ronnie.
photos that I actually made the thing. Trust me. In Instagram worthy, it is not. It's more like an Instagram fail, but I don't care. And I say in the book that it's my philosophy. It's about the process,
Yes.
not the end product. If your challah looks like a pancake, so what?
Menos que tú puedes comerlo, right? So you can eat it. It's edible. It is what it is. If it's
Exactly.
ready for Pesach, who knows,
Hey,
right?
the original challah was pita bread, so you're closer to
Exactly.
the
So there you
original.
go.
So he did that, and then I had it was so moving. One of the people that I connected with in Facebook is descended from Branca Diaz in Brazil, who was the first woman who was burned at the stake by the Inquisition for Judaizing in Brazil. She founded the first synagogue. She founded the first school to teach Judaism. She was accused of Judaizing, and she was Judaizing. So he's a descendant, and he
Yeah.
connected me with his cousin. She translated to Portuguese. I said, it means a lot to me to have someone really from this world
I
do
was
it.
just gonna say, yeah, everyone that's involved that has this ancestry is like it is. I think for all of us, like what it's funny. Like I remember even when I was coming out with my stuff, and I was hearing even a lot of Puerto Ricanos contact me, and they were saying, "You're doing this like it's like we all did it."
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't realize like how much this
Yeah.
really means to
Because
people.
there's, well, what I was gonna tell you is, this is like something I've just started to do after many, many years of, that people kind of know me from La Contratar community. I think they feel comfortable. They
Right.
finally trust me. And they've been messaging me in private for years. And I finally took a chance and I put this post up I think it was just last week. I finally said, look, listen, everyone. So many of you have written to me. Let's just talk about it. I told them there's this culture of silence. It's such
Yeah.
a taboo to talk about it. How about we start a conversation? And it was the first one I think I said, you know what, I'm going to tell you about some Shabbat traditions some of you have told me about. And if you want, you're welcome to either talk here in the group amongst yourselves about what you do or tell me privately, either way. And then I always, I joke, I go, my dad was an Israeli diplomat. I've learned to keep my mouth shut since I was born. So they know that their secrets are safe with me. I will never reveal their name or anything else. So, but it did start a conversation. And what was fascinating to me, like you could see all the people who shared the post. There were many, many people. And they were writing like in Spanish, oh my God, this is so taboo, but they shared it. And, they have been forthcoming. I've been getting a lot of questions in our Portuguese page, and this is not a secret, I can tell you. It's amazing. What they want now is like to research the Jewish lineages of all the different cities. They're thinking about maybe we're trying to figure out funding ways because, to get the I mean, I was
I
actually
was just
talking.
gonna say, I don't think people realize, like, even for myself, it was decades and it was
Yeah,
multiple people. Like, and some of those people had paid someone. It's a
yeah,
lot of work,
yeah,
right? And I don't think people realize there's a lot of branches. It's not just your
right.
four, your parents and their parents. It's a lot,
Yeah. So there's someone who has published a whole bunch of books about different communities like that. And he actually lives I mean, he's from Portugal. And so they said, oh, he's the one. So I was corresponding with him to understand the budget. And I've been trying to research grants, like, because I don't think they ever think to research in the United States. Trying to research grants. And now I'm on the board of the Society of Crypto Judaic Studies. So I've been asking around to see what they can suggest. They wanted to start a GoFundMe. I told them I can't do it for them because we at Reconectar, I told them we never fundraise and we
right,
never charge ever.
right.
It's all pro bono. I mean,
Right.
we
I
don't
think
get paid.
everybody that does this, for the most part,
Yeah,
and
no, I
and
said you've never ever heard me. I don't want anybody to feel pressured. You've never
right,
heard me ask for money for anything.
right,
So, but if one of them wants to do it, I told them not only would I contribute, I would like help
yeah.
share it and stuff and they would all help with that. So we'll see. I mean, it's up to them. I mean, if they want to do that. But it's very interesting when the conversation happened, how many people had the same desire that they never discussed
And
before.
that's kind of like, I think what was very interesting. Like, I know for myself, I remember like when the Rav was pushing me to do the last Anusim. At the time, it was like a docu-series, and it was so mamash bootleg. I mean, I look at what I do now and what I did then, and the irony that that video had over 100K viewers, and sometimes you struggle on these, right? Like sometimes you do a Facebook post and you're struggling to get one thumbs up, right? Like, and this, and so I felt like it was so shocking to me and to the Rav, because when I had came back from Puerto Rico, he said, you need to get this story out. And he was just targeting my family. We had no idea,
Yeah.
right? And suddenly it would, like, I was like you, I was getting emails from France, from Italy, from Spain, from Israel, and someone like, we've got to be related. And for sure from Puerto Rico, my gosh, I feel like that was an explosion. And I have
Yeah.
to say, I think with all of the people that have ever connected me, the Puerto Rican population per capita seems to be like the largest. And I don't know if it's because a lot of us, we came onto the mainland and we were kind of absorbed by America. So even the record keeping was somewhat
Yeah.
preserved, whatever was left over. And I think that's kind of been a benefit to us. Um, I think the other thing too is that, again, with these DNA tests, what I didn't expect is that there was this family connection,
because if you
right?
use 23andMe, they have the
Yeah, and a lot of
find your
these had
family
these,
thing.
find your family. And it was shocking, like how many people that
Yeah.
I think without exception, and I'm only speaking for Puerto Rico, without exception, I always say anyone that's from Puerto Rico and they contact me, eventually, whether it's now or a year from now or 4 years from now, I will find that somehow we're related. And I think
That's
it's the fact that
amazing.
they never married out, like these
Yeah,
communities never married out. It
that's
was a
right.
condensed place. And up until 1898, that's where they were,
Yeah.
unless they were out pirating or whatever. Like that's where
Yeah.
they were. So now that migration, and for anyone that knows the history of Puerto Rico, when they took over America, it was not a smooth transition whatsoever.
No.
And the Puerto Rican people just went through, I can't even, like, it was illegal to fly a flag, right?
Yeah.
You could not, they shot the people down. They Tommy gunned them down for 10 minutes. They bombed them. Like, this was like insane. And I think
Yeah.
what was so upsetting is that these were like the descendants of those who had hoped to break free from Spain, and now we're finding themselves under the yoke of another government.
Yeah.
And from even from a child, like there would always be, there used to be Univision. I don't know if you're familiar with that canal. So there was a canal
No.
called Univision. Walter
Oh,
Mercado was
Univision. Yeah,
on
no,
it.
I know. Well,
Yeah,
I knew it in Venezuela. I don't know if it's the
yeah.
same one.
So Walter Mercado was on it, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah. I watched it. Absolutely.
I feel
Sorry.
like, I think that if you don't know who Walter Mercado is and you're Latino, right, we got to check your card. There's
No,
something
no.
went wrong,
I know what Univision is, and I
right?
loved Walter Mercado.
And there used to always be a segment, right? And every now and again it would come up, and it would be about Puerto Rico trying to gain its independence. And the vote always fails. Like, I'm going on my 50th year, right? And I think this has been a conversation since like 1898. The vote
Wow.
has always been failing. And I think, as of the recording of this taping of this episode, there was just there's this big controversy with Bad Bunny, right? Like with this
Oh,
Puerto Rican,
yeah,
and,
the
and
singer.
right. And now, mind you, I didn't know really much about him. I don't, I'm not out buying his music, but I really do support the message that he had about what was happening in Puerto Rico. And I know that, I think it's important. I think Puerto Rico in itself has had this deliberate silencing that somewhat is continuing till now. And I think that, I think what resonated with so many Puerto Ricans, at least, about this show was the fact that finally it was said out in a way that started the conversation. The fact that so many Americans still didn't know that Puerto Ricans
That's right.
were American citizens born.
Yeah, no, well, we had a lot of people after the hurricane who came to Philadelphia, and my sister is an
Yes,
interpreter. She was
yes.
actually interpreting to help them because they didn't speak English. And somebody screamed at them, "Go back to where you came from." And she turned around and told them they're American citizens,
Yeah.
just like
And,
you.
and it's like shocking. Like, people don't know. And what's crazy is how many Puerto Ricans don't know the history.
That is crazy. I can't
And
believe
and
that.
and that was deliberate and by design. And I put this in my book, When Jews Say Marano. I put a short history in this. It literally was illegal, right? So you have these people who have been since the Inquisition keeping, silent, right?
Wow.
They're like you, secrets are safe with me, right? So
Yeah.
no one's talking. Then you have this immediate 1898, they come in. And I can, I'm sure Puerto Ricans probably know the pictures. They shot them down.
Yeah,
Tommy gunned
terrible.
them down for 10 minutes,
Wow.
and no one was ever held accountable for that. No one. Then after that, they bomb Utuado, right? They just bomb it. They bombed their own citizens. It was illegal to fly a flag. It was illegal to even say any kind of Puerto Rico should be, it was illegal.
Yeah.
So you're talking now, and I think the bombing of Utuado was 1950. So this is recent. This is modern
Wow.
time. So you're now talking about our parents who are now migrating into the mainland, still keeping silent. So I think that this has really been a hindrance for us as a community. And I think, Hashkaha Protis, that when the last Anusa came out, it was like also the first time someone was saying it out loud, right?
Right.
Nosotros somos judíos, right?
Right.
And now you have like this controversy here. And he said, he didn't say we're judíos, but he's saying what was happening, that there
Yeah.
is this history that was just kind of like silenced, period. And no one was allowed to talk about it. And, I think as a Puerto Rican, right, no matter what you think about, immigration or whatever, as a Puerto Rican, I think that this was so important. And I think whether you were for him or not for him, this is why people, it's almost like on this issue, everyone has come together because there
Yeah.
was just so much information that was withheld and suppressed. And
Yeah.
this is like mamash what they've been going through since they left Spain in 1492. So
Well, there's also the inherited fear. It's part of the
yes,
family culture that I've seen. I mean, a lot of the behavior that persists, it's just sort of I mean, I mean, I have something similar where you're trying to teach your child the survival mechanisms. And my grandmother taught me, she said, and I know that my family's weird to families that are not from survivors. Like, I mean, we're
yes,
always
yes.
bored. We have all this food. I have a go bag ready all the time. It has passports, it has money. It's like
I have a
she
little
taught me, she said, you leave everything else and you run.
yes.
And I can't not do it. And I taught my kids to do it. It's even, I just
I 100% understand. And I think even too, I remember for myself how difficult it was to even do the docu-series. And when I'm looking back at it today, I'm thinking about if I were to put a percentage of what I said compared to what really happened, the last Anusa only revealed maybe 20%. That's how uncomfortable, because I was always in a culture of silence. If I
yeah,
were to write that same book today, oh my gosh, they'd be like, shut this girl down. She's telling everything. Like, and not only that, I think, so here we are, the pandemic, we really start, revolutionizing the way
right.
information is getting. And now it's been so many years. And I've often said publicly that anyone that gets involved in this, whether it's you because it's your ancestry personally or someone who's outside and really has a desire to help, it's messy. It's messy, it's long suffering. We don't have all the answers. And I think that's something that everyone who's involved in it has come to realize, that we still don't know all the answers. We are trying and moving in real time to get the information out while trying to decode it, while trying to understand it. And sometimes, you think you know what happened and you dig a little further and something gets revealed that really puts,
Right.
it changes everything. And I think, I had a guest on previously who she works with Rabbi Yoel Gold, who did a lot of these documentaries, the family in Colombia. And we talked about this, and which is what I really love about people who have no connection to this other than a true desire to help.
Right.
They understand. And so there's so many moving parts happening all the time. What would you say has been the biggest changes since the pandemic that you've seen? Because I feel like since that time, a lot of attention has come onto this subject.
Well, I'm not sure if it's the pandemic or just that, I've invested so much time and really love in these groups that I feel that now I have more trust. But I mean, I find that many more people are being attracted to participate, and I get a lot of sort of, I've had everything from college students tell me, "Oh, I have this assignment. I live in the middle of Mexico. I need to interview a Jew. I don't have a Jew to interview. I have to hand it to, I don't know who was teaching the class, but like they wanted them to do a paper about the different sort of attitude to art in a synagogue and a church. It is a big, big difference.
Right.
And so I think for that young person that I was, discussing it with, the idea that it's not about the pictures, it's all about the words for us, right? And we don't do graven images. And churches, they were, especially in Latin America, but I find that more people are interested in opening that chapter in their life I mean, I think a lot of people, it was like, you know what, better that we don't even ask. Now they're at least asking. Of course, at Reconectar, we never push anything. Like I always tell, when people ask me, oh, what should I do now with this information? If I'm like,
No.
oh no, that's up to you.
And I say
I'm
the
not
same thing.
pushing anything on you. Of COVID, I think, is because everybody was online, and for example, on Facebook, they really have created their own network
Yes.
of support. Where I see now that we're finally discussing it a little bit openly, people tell each other, oh, I know how you can get this book, or oh, we're actually distant cousins, and let's research together. I mean, I've had that happen. I think it's amazing because, of course, I don't have all the answers. I do my best, I really do, but who's gonna know it better than them? They do, right?
And
I
I
mean,
think, that's also a change that I've noticed since the pandemic. And again, that's just kind of when I kind of like stepped onto the scene, like maybe a few months before the pandemic. And I think it was in 2019. So I think officially the pandemic was
right,
2020.
2020, yeah.
Right. And so I feel like for myself, coming onto the scene, what's really changed, it was the narrative from an academic level to a more lived experience.
Yes.
And finally, and I think even our experience has challenged academia, right? Because
Yes.
now the
Oh, it
stories are
has.
coming out, right? Because now the stories are coming out. And before, what you were finding, and here we go. Ironically, for my personal journey, what I found in the Jewish communities, all right, so put the academics, right, within people who were quote unquote experts, right? What they were saying publicly, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had privately about the errors, the damaging errors
Yeah.
that they're repeating, right? Showing them unequivocal evidence of the survival of these people.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I remember I tried to put together this documentary. I had done the last Anusim, then I did the remnant during the pandemic, and I said, wouldn't it be great to now do a documentary with the Rabbanim coming on, saying their insight to it, and immediately saw the issue. There were so many, like I had interviews, rabbi after rabbi after rabbi, without exception, all of them telling me that they were taught in yeshivot that we had all assimilated and were all gone.
That's what I was told growing up.
And I can't
That
tell
was
you,
what we were told. There's nothing
right.
left.
And that's what had them so dumbfounded. So for myself, when we're on a one-on-one Zoom with a rabbi, I feel more comfortable in privately showing them, because I'm not going to go public with who my ancestor was, with the name that has like a Star David slapped right on there, with them, with talits. Like, this wasn't ambiguous proof. This was
Yeah.
unequivocal smoking guns. And I think that they were just, and you can tell this was way before AI. These are
Yeah.
genuine pictures,
Right.
and they were dumbfounded. And
Right.
each of them said it was like you could see the literal, I have to take a seat and really examine everything that I
Well,
thought
and
I
also
knew.
even what they went, and they were, I think this was in Barcelona, they were rehabbing a house and they found, like a homemade prayer book in the wall,
Yes,
like a siddur.
yes.
Sometimes they still find very few, but they find, I think in Portugal, they found a little ark for a Torah. They found a secret synagogue inside a church in Portugal.
Yeah,
I don't know
and
if you
this is what
remember
I'm
that.
saying. Even
Oh,
for
and
my
they found mikvahs. There was a film about Puerto Rico. Did you see it by Danny Rothstein? He
I'm not
showed
sure.
like, oh, you should see it. I'll send you the link. He has
Yes.
this he went to Puerto Rico to learn about the crypto Jews, and he found this community that's not part of the organized Jewish community, and they have like this lake,
Oh.
something where they do, that's like their mikveh.
Yeah. Well,
What's one of the interesting things that's happened with this kind of new collaboration that's going on now that there's a conversation is sort of people are we're between all of us working together, right, having a conversation, we're able to figure out some of the
yes.
stranger customs that they couldn't understand. And this was fascinating. It happened in the Reconectar, like Portuguese page, where they were telling me about their mourning rituals, right? And when someone dies, covering mirrors and then they told me, yeah, and then somebody was telling me, yes, then my grandmother threw a bowl of water out into the rain, and I'm going, a bowl of water outside when it's raining. Why would she do that? And it took a few other people to say about their customs, and I finally realized what it was. So, and I explained it to them. I said, you know what it is? I know what it is. It's a purification ritual. I said, when in Israel, when I go to the cemetery, I go in from one gate, I visit the
And you gotta,
graves, or you do the funeral, whatever you're doing. and you're going to exit from a different gate, not the same one you came in. And before you do, you wash your hands. You have to purify. It's just water. It's not about being clean. It's about purification because you've been in the cemetery. You're impure now. And I said, and then I said, I don't know why you're doing it in the rain, though. That part I don't get. So then someone else said, oh, because it must be Shiva, and in Portuguese, chuvia is rain. So a kid hearing it might have misheard. You throw the water out when it rains. So we solved it.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like, I think, what the great thing, like we said, about what's happening with all these people coming forward is that it's challenging the academic narrative. Now, would you say that the academic world is receiving it? Are they still holding tight to, like, no, what we know is the...
You know what? I'm not trying to say anything to them. They sometimes come to me, and maybe when their work is threatened, to say, oh, but this was published. And my answer is, that's nice. How many years ago was it published?
Right.
Because this is new information.
Right.
I mean, I'm unimpressed for the most part.
But it's like even medical science, right? That was published and it turns out to not be correct. And I think this happens all the time. And I think that this is what I mean about the journey, right? That if you're involved in it, it's almost like scientific work, right? You have to always hold space that what you think you know may not be correct, because a few years down the line, you may unearth something that really challenges what you thought was correct.
So you and I are very fortunate because we are free. We don't have a stick over our head that we have to publish. Right. We don't have to protect a grant, okay? Therefore, we're free to explore whatever we want. And if they're threatened by it, that is really not our problem.
Yeah, and I think, this has been the big, it's funny, like I'm in conversations now with a couple of people about taking everything to the next level. I don't want to even get any further than that. And there's parts of me that feel like, I've had to learn how to do editing, marketing, writing, publishing, editing. And I feel like at this point, I'm like a conglomerate of my own, ecosystem, media ecosystem, yes. Right? And I feel like, I think at this point, right, I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's the Latina in me. Yo hago lo que me dé la gana, right? Tú no puedes decirme nada, especially now I'm turning 50. Ahora.
That's why I self-published.
But this is what I'm saying.
I don't want anyone to edit it. I want it to be what I want.
But not only that, because I have people who tend to come in and they want to like curtail your voice, right? And I think this is what makes what we do so enticing to people, because dale, we're saying it how it is. We're not sugarcoating it. We don't have to answer to anyone, so we're saying it how it is. But I think what's also changed is that after the pandemic, the gatekeepers are gone. We self-publish. We're on social media, so we're direct to market. We don't have
the gatekeepers could never reach these people. They would never trust.
And I was just gonna say, and that was the other thing too, right? I can't even tell you, like, being Puerto Riqueña, being Judía, being a woman, being post October 7th, like, that's it. All the doors were shut for you. So What do? I take it direct to market. Yo hablo con mi gente. I don't need you to talk to my people, right? Like, I talk to my own people, and we've been having a conversation for over a decade. So dale, what are you gonna say? Nada. And I'm 50 now, and I just went through a life-changing, illness and survived. Tú no puedes decirme nada. Like,
well, the other thing is, then there's no barrier. It's just you and them, and there's no substitution.
And it's an honest conversation.
Exactly. There's no substitution, every day, and you read every comment, and you try to respond as well as you can. And it's like, I find that just from these little offhand things, all the things I learned, somebody just this week shared something so touching with me. It was this prayer that he was taught when he went to sleep as a kid. And I said, oh my God, you were taught a Crypto Jewish prayer, which was basically, forgive me, God, you're the only God. And it was, it was like reaffirming his Judaism. That's what he was taught to say every night when he went to sleep.
And that's what I'm saying, that you have these things, and however messy it all is, like, I've really been pushing in the Orthodox sectors. And so I had this documentary that I wanted to come out, and that I just couldn't go forward with it. So I said, let me do like this book. The first one, The Watchman, right? And this was going to be a short story, kind of educating. And for sure, we're going to talk about that word majano, right? Soon the next book is going to be when Jews say shweta, right? Like that's going to be the next one. That's going to be the next one, right? Don't get me started. So, I wanted to teach on what's machano, what was the real experience of someone who had lived in that time. And I think the other thing, and I put this in when Jews say Morano, that people really have to understand. First of all, everyone who stood behind, right, there was this blanket indictment that everyone had stood behind for some kind of personal gain or, social climbing. That is a totally false narrative.
Yeah.
But I will say, here's what I tell people. I'll give you that if you want to say everyone that stood, they did it for those reasons, it's not true, but I'll give that to you. Okay. What are you going to do with every person born August 1st, 1492, that from the moment they're born had this religion and identity imposed upon them? There was no choice, right? And by the way, there was no conversion. They were already born as Christians. So what do you say now? So, and don't get me wrong, there is, without question, there were bad actors in this whole thing. And some of them were from the Jewish nation. There's no question about that. But that has swallowed and dominated the narrative of maybe 99% of the totally innocent Jews that were stuck in.
Well, this is why the risks they took were so moving to me. I just thought, how many people have the fortitude with the fear and the snitching and, all the motivations people had to go after anyone who did those things? Why would they put themselves at risk to do it,
And this is what I'm saying. And I think for myself, I feel the same way, because there was never any guarantee that they could see on the horizon that their own personal geulah from the situation was going to happen in their lifetime. And they kept doing it.
That's right. And transmitting, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, there's a reason everyone kept moving these traditions along.
And I got to tell you that there's been Sephardic rabbis who have been kind of, and even Ashkenazi. So there have been Rabbanim, put it from both sides of the Orthodox community, who have been on this journey. So they've been seeing it in real time from way back when, right? Since before the last Anusim. And they have seen these customs and they have said that these are held at medieval standard. Like we have lowered the bar just so that people will keep. They're holding it at a much higher level. So, it's really amazing how intact. And I think this is also challenged, right? Like when people say, especially like the newer comers in San Juan, right? And they say, oh, there's nothing. They don't have a synagogue. Well, how do you know what they have? Because you've never been up in that mountain. You don't know what they have. You don't know,
But it's by design, obviously.
Exactly.
I mean, they just did this amazing thing during the pandemic in Venezuela. If you go to the peninsula called Coro, right, there was a senior. They were a family who, I think they came from Portugal. They were doing coffee and cacao trading. They were in Curacao. Then they went to Coro and they turned the house into a museum. It has a mikveh inside. It has a synagogue. It's unbelievable. I only saw pictures on Facebook, obviously. I mean, I hope to get to go.
We've got to do like a world tour of all this stuff.
Incredible. So I don't know how they decided to preserve it and turn it into a museum. And I just saw it on Facebook, all the pictures. So if you look on Facebook, the senior house in Venezuela, you'll see it's incredible.
And I remember, and by the way, probably one of the few people who really did a good job, and I still have it. And I have a lot of the interviews for the documentary, and I'm really debating about putting them out. And I don't know whether I should do it individually or collaboratively, because one of the interviews I had was with Shulamit Halevi.
Oh, yes. Amazing. Amazing stuff.
And I have to tell you, she's done a lot of research. She had a lot of amazing feedback. And I have really been kicking around because I have nothing else better to do. But to, I really want to put these interviews out there because they were so fascinating to hear. And even I remember I had one rabbi, right, who, let me tell you, he's a big supporter of the Anusim community. And one of the things that he used to say, though, was the word machano. In his interview.
Because he didn't know.
In his interview, he literally addresses that and addresses the Jewish Orthodox community about the use of that word.
Yeah.
And he literally said, and he said something I thought was very fascinating. He said, we can no longer, in the Jewish Orthodox community, we can no longer guarantee the continuity of the Torah within our own families. Perhaps now it's time to soften and open the doors to these people as well. And I thought that was a huge, first of all, he's always been a supporter.
Right.
There was something about that statement, because for him to say something like that he's so highly respected. And I think I still, mamash, in my heart, I hope that Hashem still allows me, especially with the Rabbanim that have read The Watchmen, who have supported this, that maybe I can get them to come on and talk about this, right? Because I really think, what we're talking about Perez, which is Peretz and Zerah, right? The two twins of Tamar and Yehuda, who were the Shevet Yehuda, who were brought into Spain. And a lot of ways you see like this split that happens, right? And I really feel like these two brothers need to get back together, right? And whether it's the Anusim and the Sephardim that went off to Turkey or wherever it is, these are two brothers that need to get back together, right? And I've said this a few times, and I really feel like that what's happening with the Anusim is the Ani Yosef moment of our generation, where we're saying, you thought we were dead this whole time. Here we are. We're right.
There's some people who are ahead of you, because if you read Obadiah 120, and it says the Megurashei Sfarad, right? The exiles of Sfarad will get the Negev. I know some people who are already, and they're Bnei Anusim, they are planning an eco city in the Negev for Bnei Anusim to go to.
Okay, so I found my
they told me all about their project. I mean, it was incredible.
Dale, I'm coming. Just bring the sasson. We're working on getting sasson to Eretz Israel. That's the only thing I need.
I mean, you would love to visit Congregation Mikveh Israel, where I'm a member. It's here in Philadelphia. It's the synagogue of the American Revolution. It was founded basically.
I can't get you to lunch, but maybe I can go over there.
Well, if you look at the paintings of the first rabbis, they're all Portuguese names. It's like Seixas, Mendes. You see all these names.
It's so funny. Mendes, whoever's read The Watchmen, is a huge character in one of my books. So I think that, what's been really fun about these books is that, one, they are messy, right? This is exactly how it's the truth. It's emet. It's messy, right? It's messy. It's truthful. And this is what I'm really I really love about the feedback from the Rabbanim, right? Now, even though there's nothing vulgar in any of the books, anybody that's read it knows that there's no vulgarity. However, I touch on very sensitive topics, very sensitive topics. And the Rabbanim have literally praised it and said that it is so important for people to understand what it really was like. And this is the clean version, right, of what the reality of the lived reality was. So I'm really proud of how many Rabbanim, because for the Orthodox community, there's always this dance about what language and how you can get, and they have all said that there have been some Rabbanit who have read them, Rebbitzins that have read them and said, whatever document you want to put together and put my name on it, I will endorse it. Like, these books need to be promoted. Some rabbis have bought large quantities and disseminated them within their community. So I think it's been so unexpected, right? It's emotional because
there's a change, because if you visit Israel, you go to the Anu Museum, which is the museum of the Jewish people. To my amazement, they had an exhibit about Doña Gracia. They had an exhibit about Bnei Anusim. They called them Bnei Anusim.
And not Machranos, right?
And I'm actually I've been corresponding. I've decided I have my St. Esther's that, one day in the future, I thought they should go there. I think that, especially in Israel, for people to see an artifact is important. And if I might even encourage people in the Reconnect community to consider it, to say, if you're willing to part from the jar of the candles or something, not that it's not worth a lot of money. It's just historically, I think, very valuable. If you would be willing to let or even lend it to the museum, I think that would be amazing.
Here we go. We started out with the Holocaust, and your grandmother saying let's make this promise to me, and this was my father, right? Like he knew who he was, but to this day, right, my last name Ivel, which is Levi right to left, I never changed it, and I am the last one I can find with it. The last search we did was in Lithuania, and in the
Wow.
Holocaust, they were, because they split, like the way you said,
Yeah,
and some of them went into Poland and into Lithuania, and I think at the
right.
time it was Galicia, Poland,
That's
and
right.
then they went into Lithuania and got caught in the Holocaust, and they died, and that's the biggest amount of IVELs
Have you
I
ever
can.
looked in the Arroz archive?
I'll have to look at that.
You
But
can you
I'm
can
trying to
type in
find
your
someone
name. You'll get
alive.
their names.
But I'm trying to find someone alive. That's what he was looking for.
The archive died. You just
But
get the
I
names.
really hope beyond hope, which was another, even my mom said, right? Like that, in the Spanish, we take both the names, right? So Ivel
Yes.
and Colon. So my mom is Colon and my father's Ivel, right? And he literally said, find my family.
But you know
Find
what?
my
You might
family.
find them because one thing that is, not about the Anusim, but we did find a miracle cousin. This happened during COVID with the 23andMe. There was this person who was related to me, like a second cousin, and I'm going, okay, year of birth. I mean, it was like 48. I'm going this, or maybe before that, but yeah, no, right around there. And I'm going, this is a miracle baby, or maybe it was 40. It was like someone who we didn't understand how this person came out, right? It was just a very young baby, and no one knew who she was. And it was sad because she had a message. The only reason I even looked at it was she had a message in 23andMe. She said, I was given up for adoption. I don't know anything about my family. And I
It's
see
like,
we're
oh
related.
snap. This is like, oh
And I'm
snap,
like,
Joseph.
who is this mysterious baby that came out of the ashes of the Holocaust? Whose baby was this? And so during COVID, and my cousins are all over the world, we make a Zoom, a family Zoom. We all look terrible. Okay, everybody's hair is white. It's horrible. It was awful. But anyway, we
We
go,
couldn't
never
get hair
mind that
dye. We
now.
couldn't get anything.
We're like, never mind how terrible we look. This is important. So we get on there. I had kind of connected with her, and she came on. We're trying to figure out who she is, and she had figured out who her father was. I was connected through the father, and so the father was my grandmother's nephew.
Wow.
And now and then her half sisters popped up also, but I forgot that we did know them. My mother knew who they were. Like we didn't know who they were, but we never heard of her. And then she didn't know who her mother was, so we all helped track her. We did a lot of research together for her. We found her mother who had already passed and her half sister from that side.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
that's what I'm
don't
saying.
think.
I really hope.
And now we're family. She comes to my house for Thanksgiving with
See,
her family.
I'm telling you, like, I feel like, I kept that name. I've not found another living Ivel anywhere. Right. But I really feel like Hashem is so big. He gave me all this information. I was a lot like your cousin
Maybe it
who
was
had no.
somebody's middle last name and you just didn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I leave the door open for anything. And I think, like my mom said, now these books are out there, the name will at least live.
Exactly.
The live
I mean, I'll
it'll
tell
live.
you, when I found her, I had this feeling like, okay, I kept my promise. Unbelievably. I
Yes.
really,
Say that there's so much rich history that who knows? Like I know perhaps in my lifetime, I hope that I get to see a lot of it on Earth, right? Because it's so fascinating. And there's been a lot so far. I think the momentum. I remember when I started this, even like before it was anything, even before 2019, like it was nowhere, and now it's everywhere. Like even
yeah,
my
it's
Rav
incredible.
said, ever since you came into my office, he says I have an explosion of Puerto Ricans. Same story, like, and they have customs, and it's the
Yeah.
same exact story.
It's not just the Puerto Ricans, it's also like in Massachusetts, you have from the Azores.
Yes,
I mean, I know that many of them have Jewish roots as well.
yeah, and a lot of the Caribbean is coming forward. Colombia now is coming
Oh,
forward.
Colombia, that was, I'm sure you saw the article in Nature where someone from, let's see, what was it called? From Cartagena. He
Yeah,
had grown up hearing how they were from Sephardic Jews, and he's a geneticist. So he
right.
did this study and he found, I think it was like 10%. It was shockingly high. Much.
And that's the thing.
I didn't believe it, how much it
No,
was.
but I have to say, like, it's been a tremendous journey, and the people like yourself, and like I said, I've hit the lotto of cousins, like, you know, and I have to say that some of them, the relationship, I'm trying to get one of them. She was on the original circuit. I'm trying to get her back on. She's become like one of my closest family members, and another person I'm hoping to get back on who does a lot of genealogy. She's well known within our circles, and she actually showed where we were connected. And we've built a very strong relationship. I've been to her house, and so that's what I'm saying. I think this is what's beautiful about this, that there's a real family connection that's happening on top of the extended family, like your family, like everyone's like in this
Yes.
movement is family because
Well,
we're
you
all
know what? I
going
think
through it.
I should connect you with Danny Rothstein, the gentleman who made that film, because
Yes,
maybe you can make an arrangement with him to show it on your show.
yes,
Somehow, I don't know how he would do that, but I think for you, if it's mostly Puerto Rican viewers,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it would be very, I mean, amazing for all of you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this time around too, there was so many people, just Caribbean, South American, like there's been such a community, and I'm so privileged that everyone reaches out to me, right? But I'm just like blown away. Like I've been contacted from the Philippines
Right.
on more
That's
than one
right. Well,
occasion.
that's the
On more than
Spanish
one
and
occasion.
Portuguese Empire. It was huge. I mean, who are
Yeah.
part of the group. I have them from all over the place.
And this is what I'm
Wherever
saying.
that empire was, I have someone
And
there.
this is what's so great about what happened in the pandemic, that we all turned to the social media.
Exactly.
Gatekeepers were gone. Like we didn't have to wait for some, traditional magazine or some traditional show to publish our story.
Right.
We could
No.
just put it direct to market. And I thought that, it
But
was
we got to
finally,
drive it, right? Maybe they wouldn't have wanted to touch it, but I remember telling one particular publication, well, you're the ones who are the lagging factor now because all these other ones have it. I
and,
really think you should interview me.
that's what I'm saying, that the numbers, because this is like this topic really interests people. And I think what's become so more interesting is that it's not the academic voice, it's the lived experience voice that
Yes.
is now starting to take over. And I think that people are really fascinated about the testimonies that are coming forward about what happened, because that's what I think was so shocking. I just didn't realize that come August 1st, 1492, it was like that history just went poof, gone.
Yeah. There's still so much reluctance, though. I have
Yeah,
to say, even the communities in the United
yeah,
States who have confided in me, you know, um, if I say, "Wow, can I share this photo?" They're like, "No, I don't want to." They live in a place where they've all lived there, like Puerto Rico. They've all lived there for hundreds of years. They say we still have those neighbors, and I don't want them to know this about my that if you're in those places that used to be part of Spain, and people can still speak Spanish at home, and there are places like that in the United States where it's been a part of the United States for a long time, but I mean, I was kind of impressed. People are bilingual and they still speak Spanish at home. It's still that environment. There's still plenty of anti-Semitism there and they don't feel comfortable.
yeah. And I
I
think,
have to respect that. I really
and that's
do.
what I'm saying. That's why I say, like, I think it's really special, the communities that are being built, right? Like these little organic communities that are being
Right.
built. And I think that's, again, out of everything, when we, Bezrat Hashem, will get to 120 and we look back, I'm very cognizant that this is a very special time. The pandemic was a very special time. And they were unique pockets of times that we were fortunate enough to be part of.
Right.
Remember when it was just this?
Well, also the technology enabled us. I mean, to have this DNA unlock something like a map, and I mean, to me, it's like a treasure map. It unlocked the map, and I've been carrying it in my body this whole time.
I know.
Right? All these things I didn't dare ask. I have answers. And then that family reunification. Well, not for it didn't help me in terms of the crypto Jewish side of the
Yes,
family. It still
yes,
helped, right? It was
yes.
still amazing. But also to meet people who carry this around, and I will say that in some ways, the long reach of the Inquisition, which is much longer than the Holocaust, there are similarities. when they tell me about the fear and everything in their family, I go, well, we kind of have something like that. I know it's not the same. I know it. I'm not a competition. I'm only
Yeah,
saying
trauma is trauma.
the
Trauma is
the
trauma.
the after effects of it, what our legacy in that way is similar. It's very right. Well,
And
for me, it wasn't I mean, I obviously don't have the way to share it as you do, but what I do bring to it is that they get a very respectful reception and response. Whatever question they give me, I do my best to research to try to kind of unlock what it is that they're doing, right? Because it's like that rain thing. It was
yeah.
challenging. I really try to
You
sort
are
of,
a
but I
gem.
don't make fun of anyone for anything
No,
ever. I always say,
no, and I think that's
it's
what's
always like,
great.
wow, let's think
Yeah.
about what the
And I
source of
think
that could
that's
have
what's great
possibly
about
been.
people like yourself who are so open-minded. But one of the biggest things I respect about people like yourself is when we say, I don't know the answer to that. But let's find out together. Because I
Right.
think sometimes too, people ask me, do you know about? No, I don't.
Yeah.
But check back with me. Because now that you've put it on
Right.
my radar, I'm going to be looking into that. This is interesting. And nothing is off. Like, I don't think anything is like, nothing's taboo to me. Nothing's, you
Right.
know, even people, especially mamash, like the ones that are just discovering and they're like, and they have this Christian background and they were active in the Christian
Yeah.
church. And I said, don't feel you can say mamash
Right.
whatever.
Exactly.
I promise you this. I've been there. This is a safe space. There's
Well, the
nothing you
other
can
thing
tell
I've
me.
gotten is people who write to me and they go, "Oh, can you help me understand? I think I descend from Jews, and actually it turns out it was Moors." So I refer them to my friend that does what I do, but with Moors.
Exactly. Maybe we
I
need
say,
to have
sorry, I
that
don't
with
know
you
if this
guys.
is disappointing or not, but no.
I think like it's I tell people all the time like this literally is a journey and we don't know where it's gonna land, right? We don't know where it's gonna land. And I think at the end of the day, you have to have the honest conversation with yourself about what do I want from this? And but don't be surprised that if what you answer today, 5 years from now, because I tell you, I remember the first time I had an Israeli, leave it to the Israelis. Always I owe it to a Moroccan Israeli Jew who really was the catalyst, who recognized my name Levi backwards,
Yes.
right? And I remember telling the Rub that he brought me to, I'm not leaving my Christian religion. I was so sure that I'm good. If I had like no clue, no nothing. Now, mamash, like I look at myself like, who was that person? And you have to be okay and leave space for that. That what you think you
Oh,
know and
absolutely.
understand, it may change, and that's okay, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's saying that I believed
Oh
one
no,
way
I
and I was
remember
wrong.
we don't proselytize. I'm very
Exactly. That's the other
clear
thing.
about that. I always tell people, and in
That's the
fact,
other
when I
thing.
have conversations, because here in Philadelphia, I serve in the Latino Jewish Coalition. And of course, some of the people who are Latino have names like that. And I'll say it, and it always begins with, as you know, we don't proselytize, and they know very well. If they grew up in Latin America, they know we really don't. So
Yeah.
I tell them
Yeah.
this might interest you though, and the people who, whether they choose to return or not choose to return, in a way, they are my brothers. I always tell them,
Yeah.
having grown up in Latin
100%.
America, part of my heart will always belong to Latin
Listen, you
America.
belong with us. Like I don't know, you got sazon pockets in your on the ready, so you're part of us. I don't
Yeah,
know
no,
what
I
to tell
always
you.
tell them, I mean, I don't care what you believe. That's none of my business, but we are in a way brothers. And
Yeah,
I
and I
consider
think that's
everyone
what's.
that.
And I tell people all the time that this is, it's funny. It's the Anusim are a little bit different from a straight up ger in that there is
Yes.
this real connection to Am Yisrael, right? So there's two factors that are
Yes, and
going
there's
on.
also all the pain inside. It's different.
Yeah,
I
it's a
think
genetic
again,
right.
many
It's
times
an
might be a
ancestral
searcher.
right.
I mean, I don't know
It's an
why they do it
ancestral pain.
exactly, but it's different.
Yeah, and there is this, and it's two part, right? So you have this ancestral, real, like mamash. You have trauma in your bones that is seeping out, right?
Right.
And there's also the challenge of the doctrine you were taught to believe that you were indoctrinated with, and that's also a challenge, right?
And
Because
there's a
you have to
third thing.
undo, right?
There's a third thing they tell me in the community I serve. They tell me the blood calls to us, right? They feel
My
it.
grandmother said that la sangre se llama, si uno es judía, siempre va a ser judía.
That's right. They tell me they just always felt it. That's what they explained to me.
Recently I had a friend, and I always say, when I write my books, one of the biggest things I struggle with is naming the chapters,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And I do it at the end because I find, and I didn't understand this until my friend said that when Hashem named things, it was. And I realized that if I had put a name on a chapter before, then it's confined to that, where I let it become whatever it is, and then I name it, right? And I said, and I had a realization in this interview, and I said, when Hashem names a person Yehudi,
Yeah,
that's what they are.
that's
And they
right.
will never be
Well,
able to
names
be
are very
anything else.
important.
And that's what I'm saying, that, there is a real tangible connection that people are feeling. And I'm hoping that more and more, whether they are people like yourself or myself or Rabbanim, whether they're frum, whether they're not frum, that we can finally just start having an open and honest conversation and really getting to the bottom of this. And this is part, it's not just the Anusim history, it's Am Yisrael history. So I
Yeah,
think
well,
it's
in
important
Israel,
for all of
people
us.
don't know very much. It's very interesting. Like, if you ask them, and I sort of was like this a little bit too. I thought, well, it's just ancient history. There isn't
Right,
anybody like that anymore. That happened in 1492, not now.
right,
So,
right.
and this thing about the Jews in Latin America, that story came out only recently, right? The hidden Jews of Latin America. None of it. I mean, I lived there. You know what? I was surrounded by it. I was blind to it,
Yes.
blind to the last names of all the people who went to school with me. And it was, and you know what? When I published what I had discovered about my part of the family that had converted, that when the family split in half, only then did some people I actually grew up with finally come forward and send me private messages saying, "Oh, yeah, we were always told we're Jewish. Can you check my last names for me?" And some were even more coy. Like I told someone, "Don't worry, your last name isn't," and he's like, "That's not my only last name." Wouldn't
I,
tell me which one it was though.
I have to tell you, like, I'm so excited for the Jewish nation that this is happening. I'm so excited for whatever part that I'm allowed to play in it. Sometimes I say, if it's Chas v'shalom, that it should all be over, no more opportunities, no more platforms, no anything. I will always, I don't want to cry, I'll always be so grateful to
You're
everyone
not
who has,
going anywhere.
but I feel like so many people, it was such a leap of faith, right? To even put the episodes out. And my gosh, like, again, I'm so like embarrassed, like the quality of them, but yet it was like my highest viewed, like, right. But just the
Those
outpouring
of
that I
us who
wasn't
view it
alone.
don't care about that as much as you do. If it's
Yeah, I
interesting, we
know.
want to see it.
But I'm just so like grateful to have been able to been given the tools from Hashem to use everything. Like, I feel like my whole life has been in preparation for advocacy for this
Right.
population. There has been this real longing to say that's not enough, because I know there's so many more people behind them, and you can hear the pain in their emails. And
Well, I have a surprise that will cheer you up. I think
okay,
what we should do, here's what I think we should do.
yeah.
If you want to organize, and where do you usually give your talks?
It's funny. Like, Rabbanim will call me, or gals will call me.
So what
And
about to your Puerto Rican community? Where do you give your talks?
well, here we go. It's on YouTube. It's on,
Oh, they're not in person then.
No, for a full on Puerto Rican, I think that's the other thing too. Like, we don't have like an established community yet. We're
Oh, you
literally
don't have.
scattered.
Okay.
Yeah, we're scattered everywhere. So
Oh,
that
I didn't realize that. I thought
no,
there
and
was a big
that's
community
one
in
of the things that
Connecticut.
the
Okay.
Rabbanim, that the Haredi have said. Like, you guys need your own. Like, there should be some, even
Oh
in New
no, but
York.
I thought you lived proximate to each other. I did not understand.
No. This is we've literally, mamash, we've made this like really makeshift, but we're close as ever. Like, we're on the phone all the time. We're on private Zoom chats. Like, so I'm just so grateful when
Well, I was
when
gonna offer to come and do like my Purim presentation, but I'll send it to you on video in Spanish, and you can share it with them since it's
I
not
will.
in one
I'll
place.
put
I
it up on the
misunderstood.
channel, but I have to say, like, I'm just so grateful. I could have never imagined that this would have been the outcome to meet so many people. That this platform, the bravery of just hitting publish on Amazon, right?
Right.
And the doors that it's opened as a result of it to get in touch with people like yourself and historians and researchers,
Right.
and even I'm really standing on the backs of so many survivors, right, who kept a lot of things
That's
intact.
right.
And for me to be able now to also take a brave step forward, and it's opened so many doors, and I've never in my whole life, I probably had a list of 20 careers I would have wanted. This was not even in the stratosphere. So it's like, and yet every time I say I'm done, this is it, this is the last project, and it's like Scarface, like
You know what? You
not
don't
done.
find the thing you do, it finds you.
And that's exactly what happened. But I'm so grateful for the support. There's nothing, I have to tell you that the Latino community, I've never seen a support system like this where mamish, like they ride hard for their people, and I'm just so grateful to have found a safe space, that these people held space for me with all of my berinches and like whatever, like and they just keep supporting, and I'm just so grateful, and it just makes me want to keep fighting hard and pushing and challenging, and even the rabbanim who I've challenged and still allow me back into their shuls. I'm
Well,
like,
that's
oh, to
what
you
being
too.
Jewish is. We challenge.
I was just gonna say, but
That's truly what Jewish is.
yeah, and it's just
That's why you have to study in Chavruta, two people, you can
and,
fight about
and you
it.
can fight it out, and that's the thing that I'm grateful to them. Again, that is what it is. That's what they taught me to challenge as well too. And I think that there's nothing wrong in saying that we don't know all, we don't have all the answers, and we don't know everything. And even what we think we know today, there's things I know
What
today
what
that
do we say in Judaism? Okay, it is your job to write a book. Not all the books have been written.
right,
You have something original to add. Every one of
right,
us does.
right. And so I'm just like overwhelmed and grateful. I just hope that I continue to meet people and just to see in my
I have no
lifetime.
doubt you will.
I hope so. I'm just like I said, I really, you know, I want it to be finished in my lifetime because I'm so excited to see how this all ends, right? And it's just so fascinating to me, the courage and the bravery, and you see it in the people who come forward, and even that one question that they may think is, oh my gosh, like it's not stupid to us. I know it's not stupid to you.
No, it's
Like
not about stupid. It's
no,
that nobody
it's
ever
such a
said
brave,
that question was stupid. It's
right?
more kind of incomprehensible. Like, and I get it because if you just look at our traditions as Jews, right? How many of our customs go all the way back to the temple in Jerusalem or even
Yes,
before?
yes,
And we don't know why we're doing. I mean, I didn't know why I was doing this. Like, you dip your challah in salt when you do Shabbat dinner.
right,
Why? Why? Where's that from? Do you
right,
know?
right, right.
Because
So
Aaron said, I want salt on my bread.
So, I mean, Ronit, I want to give you some last parting words. If you could see yourself or see the movement in 10, 20 years, Bezrat Hashem, Mashiach hasn't come, uh, what do you hope to see for our community, like, all of us together? And first of all, I hope that, we will have a physical, tangible community. That's what
Well,
I
what
would
I would
like.
hope to see is that, people who are exploring this, who know who or discover this background or have or always know it, would be welcome in the organized Jewish community. I know there's a lot of rejection. I know there's a lot of really not very nice behavior that I don't approve of and I don't agree with. I don't think, I don't think it should be that way. So I hope that, I mean, I can tell you that I have invited people who by chance I've met here in Philadelphia to Shabbat dinner at my synagogue. It was my treat, and everyone was very lovely to them. The rabbis were wonderful. I gave them a tour. They got there before Shabbat. They were allowed to take photos, in front of the ark and then just with all the cool historic things we have there. The rabbi allowed it. I mean, it meant a lot to them. They had been scared for years to try to go into a synagogue. And, I'd like them to feel less intimidated and, to, even if they don't want to come back to Judaism, if they just want to experience it, if they want to know who are our relatives that did this, what is it like to meet a Jewish person? I think they should feel welcome to do that.
Yeah, and I'll just say this as my parting as well, and I'll speak, directly to the community as well. That, if you've been on Facebook with me or whatever, my big thing these days is really taking back the pen and writing the story yourself, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean a book or whatever, but it's so important. If you don't know your history, there will be plenty of people who will come in and tell it for you, and it will always be wrong.
Yeah.
And I really hope that for, para mi gente, you can embrace how messy it all is, that you can step into who you are, your identity, right? That you're still even trying to figure out, and hold space for that and be okay with that, and stop searching for the approval of people who are probably not just like this with you, they're probably like this with a lot of people. We're in a love me, like me, pick me culture. Be okay with who you are, and I'm telling you, your people are going to find you. And I think that if you do that, if you get rid of like all of that noise and nonsense, and you just leave space for the people who will accept you as you are, your life is going to be so much better. And that's like the biggest thing. I've been on this, there was a pasuk in the Torah that, from the Miraglim, we were grasshoppers in their eyes, right? You're not grasshoppers, but if you put out that energy, don't be surprised when people come and try to stomp on you. You have to be able to be in your skin, take back your power, take back that pen, write your own story. Don't let anyone tell you who you are. And that's like the biggest thing I can hope to impart to not just the Bnei Anusim, to all of Am Yisrael. Like we all struggle with this, the very human thing. It's okay to not be okay. And to not have it all together. But Ronit, I can't tell you, first of all, you owe me a lunch.
We'll do it.
Bezrat Hashem. Even if it's in Eretz Israel, we're going to do it. I can't thank you enough for coming back on. I'm going to leave the link to the book down. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And Ronit is like all over like social media. So you can connect with her on Facebook. Where else are you on?
Well, I kind of do most of my work on Facebook with this
Yeah,
community. I
yeah,
have for my book, I have Twitter, but Reconectar work is basically, I
yeah.
mean, we're on a community and on Facebook, and that's
Yeah, I
the
was just
place.
gonna say, I think that
Yeah, if
that's the
anybody wants
population is
to
living.
drop in, I mean,
Yeah,
we have this Reconectar in English. There's one in Spanish. We have a
one in
nice
Portuguese.
website. We have a nice website. There's one in Portuguese and in Catalan. So
Yeah.
I also don't speak Catalan, but I still manage.
Somehow, I don't think that that's gonna stop you one bit. But I want to invite you on, connect with Ronit. Feel free to drop me a line. I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to sit with us, and I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. And leave a comment. Please go out and support Ronit's book. We'll leave the link in the description. Ronit, thank you so much for coming
Thank you
on.
very much for having me, and I promise you I will tell you when is a good time and we'll get together.
Ezrat Hashem. All right,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you very much. Be well.